and welcome back to the channel. So it's December 16th and it turned out to be a pretty nice day today. I think it's the first day that we really haven't seen rain in a long time. So I decided to get the bike out. Let's go for a little ride. Today's video is In Search Of. Remember that old TV show? So what I'm looking for, since it's pretty close to Christmas here, I'm looking for the place where they would have had the first Christmas service in church in the British Columbia lower mainland area. So I did a bunch of research about this and found an interesting story about the first service that may have happened in this region. So the modern European history in this area is not very old. It goes back, 150 or 170 years for documented history. And I know the indigenous people have been around here for thousands of years. So with all the research I was able to find online, there's one church. There's actually two churches that had a claim at one point that they had the first service in this region and the first Christmas service. So I'm now in an area that was once known as Derby, British Columbia. So this area, Derby, British Columbia, is all been removed now. So back in the mid-1800s, this area was built up and there was a little town here. So in 1858, Reverend William Burton Crickner, I think the name was, traveled with his family by boat from Europe to get here to be part of the original settlers of this area. In fact, when they landed in Victoria, he was on the same boat as Colonel Moody. So Reverend Crickner ended up making his way to this area here called Derby, British Columbia. So the first church that he set up was actually in the barracks here in Derby, British Columbia. And it was a temporary church that he set up. And that's where he had his first service on February 20th, 1859. So then the first Christmas service in a church would have been here in December in 1859. So on the first number of services in the barracks, somewhere around here, they had everybody in there from soldiers to civilians, and the pulpit was a Union Jack over top of a box. And I guess everybody in there was carrying everything from Bowie knives to guns to, it was such an eclectic mix. But the actual church, the one we're looking for, was opened up in May of 1859, and that's where they had the first service inside the church. So it was somewhere around these areas, and again, there's no markings, so it's hard to tell where. So the town no longer exists of Derby, British Columbia, because a year after the church was constructed, community of Queensborough, now known as New Westminster, was named the capital at that time in 1860. Like I said before, all remnants of this town and the original fort and everything's been removed. There's no markers, there's no anything. But what I could find is it's at an intersection where it's just surrounded by farms now. So this is the area where Derby, BC used to be. And there's a park just north of me here called Derby's Reach. But I believe this is the intersection behind me right here. Where they're talking about is where the town site used to be. So I took a look around and yeah, there's no markers. So the church actually sat here idle for almost 20 years, up until 1882 when they decided to move the church. So in 1882 it was dismantled and floated across the river to Maple Ridge where the railway was being constructed. So now we're going to go find the church because it's actually still around. So let's go for a ride and go to the church. So now we're going to cross the Golden Ears Bridge. Now this bridge is pretty new because when I lived in Walnut Grove back in the 1990s, this bridge wasn't here. And we either had to take a little ferry from Fort Langley or go all the way back to Coquitlam to get across the river. But back in 1882, they had to use a barge when they dismantled the church. So somewhere over there to the right is where they would have set up the barge and loaded the church onto it to get across the river. So let me clarify one point here. Because basically on my channel I don't like talking about politics or current affairs or religion or anything like that. And I know this dips into the religion category, but what I'm focusing on is a Christmas story. I like that time of year, Christmas time, and I do appreciate so many different people's opinions and their different views on religion, so I'm not picking sides here. I'm just telling a story about finding the place where the first Christmas service was for the modern settlers. Last thing I want to do is dip into religion. Uh-oh, I think I missed the cutoff. So we're now on River Road West in Maple Ridge, BC. I think I've located that it's on this road somewhere. So in one of the newspaper articles I read when I was researching all this, I guess there was some heated conversations or highly contested or something like that between two different churches trying to claim that they had the first service here in the lower mainland of BC. And that's why I don't like talking religion on here, but I'm just going after the facts that I was able to research. Now, the church in New Westminster, the United Church, they ended up conceding that this church that we're here searching for was the first one that had the actual first service back in February 1859. And that might be it right ahead. It kind of looks like the pictures that I was able to research. So let's turn in and see. St. John the Divine Anglican Church. That's it. So this is the ones. So I'm going to hop off the bike and let's take a look. So in 1859, the Royal Engineers actually built the church behind me here. So in 1882, it was relocated to this location, and it stayed here for almost 100 years. But I think it was 1983 when they discovered that the wood logs for the foundation of the church were starting to rot, so they relocated it. So actually, I guess the church was actually somewhere around where the bike is right now for about 100 years. And then it was relocated 100 feet back to the new foundation where it sits today. So St. John the Divine Anglican Church behind me here is listed as the oldest wooden church in BC. And as far as I could find out, this is where the first Christmas service would have taken place inside of this church back in 1859. And a couple notables of interest is the Crown Princess of Juliana of the Netherlands was once here, and Princess Margaret actually attended here in 1958. Well, thanks for riding along today. I hope you enjoyed my little Christmas story for this year. Anyhow, it's such a nice day today, even though it's just 5 degrees on the gauge. It's all good. It's still good to get out for a ride on December 16th. Okay, thanks for following along. I hope everyone has a happy holiday season and can't wait for 2022. Okay, take care. Ride safe. Uh-oh, I think I missed the cutoff. Story of my life. I can't follow directions if it's right in front of me. And it is right in front of me.